Hi students. Today I want to share with you an example essay that was written by some students in previous years. And I want to show this to you so that you have a guide to use as you are wrapping up your paper this week and next week. So I'm going to walk you through each part of this sample paper to point out some things to make sure that you have these in your own paper as you are finishing and editing. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through this paper piece by piece. This particular paper happened to be about JFK, which was a topic in previous years. So since nobody is writing on JFK, I figured this would be the perfect opportunity to show you an example that would also help you at the same time. Okay, so let's just look at this first paragraph. If you look at the part here in blue, what you will read here is that this particular person started out by stating an exciting fact about the president. He said, "Did you know that John F. Kennedy installed a secret taping system in the White House during his presidency? He most likely did this to aid in writing his memoir and capturing many historical conversations. What history must have been captured by one of the finest presidents our country has ever had." Now notice, they started with an interesting fact, but they also tied it into their topic with this sentence right here. So if you did something like this, make sure that you have a sentence that's going to tie everything together. Now this next part in purple, okay, those are this person's basic facts. Remember, we need some basic facts to make sure our audience knows what we're talking about. And notice it's just a couple sentences long. So it says, John F. Kennedy was born May 29, 1917. He was born in Brookline, Massachusetts, and joined the Navy in 1941. JFK ran for president in 1960, won and assumed office the following year on January 20th, 1961. During his presidency, Kennedy proceeded to participate in important events that shaped our history. And then notice, here is their in-text citation, history.com editors. Okay, all the in-text citations I put in hot pink so that you'll be able to notice them right away. So that means that all of these basic facts that were just stated about the president, this particular student found on history.com. Now notice the last sentence of this introductory paragraph is the claim or the thesis that they're going to be proving. So they said, JFK made a huge impact on society because of his help with the space race, the civil rights movement, and his involvement during the Bay of Pigs. Remember, you should have 3 discussion points as well. So we know that this person is going to be talking about those 3 things in their body paragraph. Okay, let's take a look at the body paragraph. Now notice I started out with a restated topic sentence here. Because of JFK's profound impact on the space race, civil rights movement, and involvement during the Bay of Pigs, society is better today. So I know that this student is going to talk about all 3 of those things in their body paragraph. Now, I'm not going to read to you each of these pieces of evidence and reasoning, but I do want you to know that each one is going to start by introducing what's going on. So JFK made an impact on society because he helped move the space race forward. And then they start with a transition word in the first place. Now, there is one thing I do want to point out about this particular piece of evidence. This student started by saying Veatch illustrates. Well, Veatch is the author of this particular quote. Okay, so they say Veatch illustrates, they give the important information in the quote, okay, and then notice with this in-text citation, they only give the page number. Well, that's because you already told me what the last name of the author is, so you don't have to put Veatch 151 here. I already know who to look for, and you're excited if I need to find that source, okay? Notice then, after they give the quote, then they tell me why it's important. Why was this important to state to show that JFK made a positive impact on the space race? Okay, moving on. Second piece of evidence, JFK also improved society by assisting in the civil rights movement. As a matter of fact, there's their transition word. Then they state their piece of evidence. Now notice this time they did not give the author's name up front. So this time they did have to include the author's last name and the page number here after their quote. And then again, after the in-text citation is an explanation of why that was important, to the civil rights movement. Then their third, lastly, there's their transition word. JFK improved society by advising on the Bay of Pigs incident. For instance, and then they give their quote again. Notice no author stated here, so right after this quote, I'm going to find the author's last name and page number. Then I find the reasoning right here, okay? Now I presented all 3 pieces or discussion points with evidence and reasoning. Now I need to wrap it up. Here's my transition word. All in all, Kennedy's involvement in these 3 areas created forward movement for all of society. Great, so I've addressed all 3 pieces of evidence with Evidence and reasoning with my in-text citations. Now I can go on to my conclusion. Remember that your conclusion needs to start out with a restatement of your thesis. So that's what I put here. JFK created a monumental effect on civilization by contributing to the space race, civil rights movement, and Bay of Pigs. Then you need to summarize each one of these. Notice they did not go back up into their essay and just pull stuff from that. They reworded it and summarized it very quickly into 2 or 3 sentences here, summarizing everything they had just said. And then, just like we've talked about in SIRS, they finished it with a future thought. So they finished their paragraph in their paper by saying, in the future, I believe, now notice, this is one thing I know I've told my classes, this is the only place I would ever, ever, ever allow you to use a personal pronoun, because you're making a future prediction. So you're saying, in the future, I predict that many politicians and influencers will look to the actions of our past president for insight and inspiration. Okay, so that is what a completed paper should look like. And then, of course, after that will be their works cited, which is on its own separate page, but we'll talk about that later this week. But I wanted you to have a good idea of what we will be looking for when you turn in your final papers. Hopefully this is helpful. Rewatch it if you need to. Look at my color coding, because I'm hoping that that is going to help it break it down for you a little bit more clearly, that you can visually see the parts. Okay, guys, if you have questions, be sure to email one of your teachers, and we would be happy to help you wrap this up. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.